how different um, is today's diplomacy, is today's Indian diplomacy from Bharat's diplomacy before the Turkic invasion? It's an excellent question, and I wish more people would think this way. That we have a certain state of affairs in India today. We have a certain kind of governance system. We have a certain set of institutions in the country. We have a certain way of doing diplomacy and interacting with other foreign powers. How was all of this done 1,000 years ago, before the Turkic invasion of India? I wish more people would wonder about these things. So, how different is today's diplomacy compared to before the invasions? Well, first of all, we don't have any records from before the Turkic invasions. Whatever records may have existed would have been destroyed in the destruction of the universities and libraries of India. When it comes to ancient diplomacy, if you see, Egypt no longer exists as a culture or civilization today. It's part of the Arab world today, but we still have records of their diplomacy in the form of letters and correspondence between Egypt and various other powers in the region, like the Hittites, like the Mitanni, and so on. Um, who was the Mitanni king? I think it was Tuesharath or Dasharath, who maintained a long correspondence with one of the Egyptian kings, pharaohs, and one of, I think, his sister was married to the Egyptian king, and his daughter was also married to the Egyptian king. And he had a long correspondence, ongoing correspondence with the Egyptian king. He sent the letter, the Egyptian king sends the letter back, and then there's a reply and this another reply, and all of that was discovered in Egypt. And after the Egyptian pharaoh dies, the Mitanni king Tuesharath continued the correspondence with the king's widow, and it's interesting correspondence, because the Mitanni king is kind of greedy, and he wants some of the gold that is said to be very copiously available in Egypt. You have gold like we have dust on the street, so why don't you send me some? You had promised that you would send me some gold. When are you going to send it to me? That was the gist of the correspondence, ongoing. So that's how diplomacy was done between Egypt and various neighboring powers. So we have records that have survived. We have records that survive from Mesopotamia, that region as well. We have records that survive from Rome and other countries in Europe. But in India, the ancient records have been destroyed. We have some understanding of diplomacy because of the correspondence that seems to have survived between so we know that during the Mauryan era, uh, before the Mauryas, we had a different dynasty, different empire that was in power in India. There was the Nanda Empire, and when Alexander the Greek tried to invade India, he came face to face, almost face to face, with the full might of the Nanda Empire, and his soldiers mutinied, and they refused to go forward further into India, and they forced Alexander to go back to Babylon, where he died. And just a few years later, when his general Seleucus Nicator came to India, there's a whole new empire in place, which is the Maurya Empire. So the Nanda Empire was destroyed by Chandragupta Maurya and Vishnugupta Chanakya, and they set up a new empire. Chandragupta became the emperor of India, one of our great emperors. And Seleucus Nicator, he conducted a small, brief war with India at the time. It was not a very serious war. It was kind of half-hearted. And at the end of the war, there was a treaty that was agreed upon. It was a peace treaty between India and Greece, some 2,300 something years ago. So that was a negotiated peace agreement. It was a negotiated alliance. India and the Seleucid Empire became allies. And we provided Seleucus Nicator 500 war elephants with their drivers, Mahots. And in exchange for that, Seleucus Nicator gave back whatever territories he or Alexander or whoever had taken. So we got back all of Gandhara and all of that, all the way to Persia. So we got a good amount of our territory back, and we got a stable border, and we got friendship, and we got an alliance. So there was diplomacy that happened here, right? But we don't have the records of the proceedings. Who went and negotiated what? Was it Chandragupta himself will not obviously go. He will have a foreign minister or a prime minister who will negotiate on his behalf. Was it Vishnugupta Chanakya who did that? Was it somebody else who was the negotiator from the Greek side? See, all of that is lost. But we clearly did diplomacy, and it was a pretty good, strong agreement, alliance that we agreed upon with the Greeks, and it lasted generations. So after Chandragupta dies, after Seleucus Nicator dies, Chandragupta's son and Seleucus's son continue the same partnership and relationship, and they have correspondence apparently that is also pretty friendly and warm. So it was a treaty that lasted at least one generation more, if not more. After that, the Seleucid Empire itself disintegrated, while the Mauryan Empire continued under Ashoka and so on and so forth. So I think the treaty lasted as long as the Seleucid Empire lasted. So we had excellent diplomacy at the time, but I'm not sure how it was conducted. We obviously were aware of you know of all the other kingdoms and empires in the world. It's not like we were isolated, but we don't have the records anymore. So it would be great if our historians would try and investigate these things instead of wasting the time on God knows what.